Welcome, everybody. This is the May meeting of the ClusterAPI Node Bootstrapping Working Group. It's a pretty small meeting, and we have a pretty short agenda. So if no one else joins, that'll be a quick one. I will be sharing the disclaimer. We're a CNCF sub-project, a working group in a sub-project, and as such, we adhere to the CNCF Code of Conduct. Don't talk over each other, treat everybody as you wish to be treated yourself. So it'll be easy, it's just Johanna and me. Johanna is back from some time off. Really happy to see you back. It's awesome to have you. Let me share the correct window. That looks good. And here we go. All right. First, let's go through the to-dos and dones in the housekeeping section. We don't have any topics today. We had some open implementation questions. Have you been able to align with the core ClusterAPI folks on some of the main questions before you went out, Johanna?
Yes, we've been having a couple of discussions, I think mainly in these meetings. And I might also have sent some questions asking, I don't remember right now, but yeah, I'm not blocked on anything in terms of the implementation right now. So as new questions arise, we'll just keep bringing them with the maintainers. I think it should be fine. Yeah, exactly. I don't really see this as an open to do anymore. So
awesome. And then Matt wanted to work himself into your work, Johanna, and to basically help out, but since he's not around and they didn't get any updates from him, I don't have a status update there, so I just leave it. And yeah, do you have anything to share?
Yeah, so not really in terms of updates. I've been away for a while for personal reasons, as you said in the beginning. Plus, I've been also quite busy with internal projects at our shared employer, which are not ClusterAPI. So yeah, not much to update since I guess the last major meeting we had, which was in April 17th, I think. Yep. So yeah, my main call to action would be to encourage more people to join the implementation effort at this point. It's useful in general to have multiple people working on this kind of stuff. I wouldn't like to be the only one involved actively, hands-on. Plus, we want this to be not just a Microsoft effort, but a community effort. And if I'm the only one working on that and I'm a Microsoft employee, then it's going to look like a Microsoft effort inevitably. So yeah, I know it's pretty hard to get onboarded, but I think I tried to include links to all the work in progress stuff that I have. As I push new commits, they should just appear in the branches that I've shared previously. The current state is that we're in the process of gradually building the new Bootstrap provider, the new Ignition flavored Bootstrap provider in the new repository that we created, while trying to reuse as much of the CABPK code as possible with minimal copy pastes, etc. Last time I touched the code, I think I got to a place where things compile in terms of Go, but they don't yet deploy properly in terms of Kubernetes, manifest, permissions, RBAC, all of that. And if I remember correctly, the last challenge that I tried to tackle was to reuse as much of the YAML code from CABPK without copy pasting files. So maybe something like customize. I don't know how that works for things like CRDs. There are open questions there, but yeah, that's the last thing I remember doing when touching the project. And yeah, so I encourage anybody who's interested to just look at what I did so far. If anything doesn't make sense, just reach out to me, or if you have any questions. And I mean, I think the code should be pretty self-explanatory. The main thing we're doing in the news repository is just scaffolding everything from scratch in an empty repo. And then we are pointing to a branch in core CAPI that has some modifications that I made which allow plugging in the provisioner implementation. So right now in my feature branch in core CAPI, I think we are hard coding cloud in it, but then there is a one-line replacement that we can plug in ignition, and we should hard code that in the new Bootstrap provider because it is ignition only, right? We're creating not a generic provider, but an ignition flavored one. So that should ideally be the main difference between core CABPK and the new Bootstrap provider. Maybe that's overly optimistic. We might need to do a whole bunch of other stuff in order to get things to work, but this is something for us to discover while working on the new provider.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Awesome. Great update, given that you've been out most of the time. And just in the really literally in the second you mentioned that we're looking for more contributors, Alex joined. Hi, Alex. You wanna say hi for a second?
Hey. Hey.
Alex.
Can you give us a little bit an idea of your interest in the project and your background?
Yeah. Hey. My name's Alex. I work for SUSE. I'm focused on Rancher and everything related to cluster provisioning. We're using CAPI, and we've started looking into possibly wanting to have like a better separation between Node and Kubernetes bootstrapping. We have an idea where we wanna use agent-based bootstrapping. So we want to change a bit how CAPI does it at the moment. We want to run some agent on every host instead of how CAPI traditionally just like passes everything in the user data. And we want just like to install the agent and then make the agent configure the system or install Kubernetes. And now with in-place updates coming sometime soon, it would also do the in-place updates for us. So that's my interest in the project.
Awesome.
Nice.
I just let you and Johanna nerd it out. Johanna has been driving most of the implementations. The key kind of message that I'm getting from today's meeting is Johanna has more or less been the lone warrior in that project, and we're looking for contributors. So if you're interested, Johanna can definitely ramp you up and kind of bring you up to speed.
Yeah, by the way, this is not the first time you're joining, Alex, right? Your name sounds very familiar to me. I think you've attended a couple of meetings or at least joined in on some GitHub threads, right?
Yeah, some are in GitHub and some other upstream meetings, but this one is my first time for Node
Okay.
bootstrapping.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so basically, as Dilo said, I've been, I think, the only one working hands-on on the implementation so far. In case you aren't aware, I think you are, but in case you aren't, then the focus of this work group is to sort of figure out how we can evolve bootstrapping and provisioning in the long term in CAPI, because bootstrapping, strictly speaking, is a process of turning a server like a VM, for example, into a Kubernetes node, and provisioning is running OS customizations, for example, via user data in order to get to that state, plus maybe doing other customizations to the nodes. What you described, running an agent, would be something alternative to the provisioning mechanism, but you might still use the provisioning mechanism just to install the agent, like you said. So yeah, in this work group, what we're trying to do is, what spawned this work? Sorry, yeah, headphones are having what prompted this work group was that
No,
as in
you're very. I don't even know how to explain it. It's the audio is choppy.
Can you hear me?
Excellent. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, sorry, I'm having low battery warnings, and when that happens, then my audio gets broken, and I don't find my other microphone, so I'll try. Oh no, here it goes again.
You broke off for only a few seconds. Maybe I can show Alex around while you're looking at the mic issue. So if you check the agenda for this meeting, we have this reference of kind of the work in progress status of the refactoring work that we're doing. The current goal of Johannan's work in particular is to support more than one host configuration mechanism. ClusterAPI started with Cloud in it, and we kind of hacked Ignition into it, and that's the state upstream currently is in. And this work tries to introduce like a separate Ignition provider with the kubeadm bootstrapper that exists in parallel of the Cloud init one. While reducing duplicate code. So we're trying to kind of partition it in a way that will allow us to update upstream in a way that they kind of branch, and you can basically install Ignition as a separate Bootstrap provider, kind of the same way you install other providers in your management cluster. And so the repository is here. For practical purposes, we put it in the Flatcar organization. That's just because we're very close to the project, and I'm a maintainer, so that's very easy for me to put there. We didn't want to put it under a private repo or personal repo because it's a little bit harder to maintain that way. We're very liberal with access, so if you want to have access in that repo and basically have your branches there next to Johannan's branches or work together with Johannan on that, it's no problem at all. You just give me your GitHub login and you get access. Yeah, it's more or less there because Flatcar is already a CNCF project. We want to keep this very close to CNCF guidelines because the end goal is to get it into SIG Kubernetes, obviously. It's not supposed to stay in the Flatcar org. All right. I think that's a good starting point. That and chatting with Johannan a lot. I can hear you, Johannan.
You can hear me. Okay, great. Yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit, to elaborate a little bit that the main problem is that initially when designing the core CAPI APIs, we didn't really separate the notion of provisioning from the notion of bootstrapping. And now in retrospect, it becomes necessary, but it's very hard to sort of retrofit that separation into the API without breaking the whole project. The thing is that, for example, we have data structures that involved very separate concerns. So in the same Go type that is exposed in the Kubernetes API, in the core CAPI CRDs, you would have things like the version of the Kubernetes and the number of control plane replicas, but also things like disk partitions and NTP configuration and things that are not only unrelated to the generic Kubernetes bootstrapping, but also they're specific to cloud init, so to one provisioner. And then that implies that if you're using, for example, a kubeadm control plane, then it is implied that you're also using cloud init. And what we're trying to solve is we want to break this assumption because, for example, if you want to use Flatcar, then you have to use Ignition because Flatcar uses Ignition and not cloud init, but maybe you still want to use kubeadm. And then how do you do that without creating like a Cartesian multiplication craziness of all combinations of bootstrappers with all combinations of provisioners? And yeah, that's the problem we try to solve. Initially, I thought in terms of the design or redesign, I thought that we want to introduce a provisioner contract, which means that we're going to abstract away anything in terms of like the serialization of the user data or the format or whatever, and just make the bootstrap part completely agnostic to the provisioner part. But after consulting with some of the core maintainers, that looks impractical because it would involve basically redoing significant chunks of the core CAPI API. So what we did end up doing was basically for now, optimistically assume that we'll be fine with just an ignition flavor of CABPK, of the existing KubeID and Bootstrap provider, and then worry about other problems later. Like if we get to a point where we have too many Bootstrap providers with too many flavors of like provisioners, maybe then we do the redesign. I don't know. We basically decided not to do the redesign now. And then in terms of implementation, what I did so far was I started in the core copy repo, so cluster-API. I started isolating the Go packages and around provisioning so that we can try to get to a pluggable state so that we can plug in the desired provisioners somewhere high level in the code, like close to the main function and say, okay, for this instance of CABPK, I'm going to use Cloud Init, or I'm going to use Ignition, or I'm going to use a third implementation that doesn't exist yet, right? And then in the new repository that we have linked here in the notes, the idea is to instantiate or to call this code, this reusable code from CABPK, but inject a hard-coded line that says, yes, but use Ignition, don't use the default of Cloud Init. And then ideally, all the rest should be basically just reusable from core copy. This is the ideal state. We're not there yet. But that's the route that we agreed upon with the maintainers. And this way we can also do Ignition-related work without necessarily disturbing core copy or sort of like blocking releases of core copy, etc. So this was also part of the rationale there. That was quite long, but I think it should give you an overview of where we are at.
Yeah, thanks. That looks interesting. I will take a look at the project.
Sure. Feel free to join to the extent that you want to join. No pressure. As we said, we're happy to get more contributors at this point, but yeah, only if you can and have the energy and yeah, the ability to.
And if you have any questions, don't shy away from pinging us in the Kubernetes Slack. There is a separate Flatcar channel where you can get us as well, but you can just ping us from the ClusterAPI channel. That's fine. We're active there too. All right. So no new to-dos. Anything else people want to talk about? Cool. We're through with our agenda. The next meeting is on the 5th of June. See you back then. And until then, see you on Slack.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.
Bye.